What is good, everybody? Welcome to another joint gold standard Grant Cohn production. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He's Grant Cohn. What's up, Grant?
Not much, Rob. How you doing? I'm really excited to be doing this with you. I like the simulcast experience. We feel like we're groundbreaking here.
That's right. Look, this is what we do here. We're trailblazers. So make sure you like and subscribe to the Gold Standard Network YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to Grant Cohn's YouTube channel. And we're going to get into it today because you just got back from the league meetings in Arizona. You were there. You talked to Jed. You talked to Kyle. You talked to John. And some things were said. And the vein in my forehead is going to just burst here because the more the 49ers talk about their quarterbacks, the dumber they seem. Is that fair?
Yeah, and they said it with like such a proud expression. And everyone gave them a round of applause. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. I was like, hold on. They just told you that the plan they were pretending they were sticking to the last 2 years is done. And they are starting over at the quarterback position. Everything rests on Brock Purdy's elbow at this point. Like, that's amazing to me. And everyone was like, the Niners are so courageous. They don't care where a player was drafted. They will play the best guy. It's like, yeah, man, they definitely handled this perfectly. This one day we're going to study this, how to do it the way the Niners did.
All I want is two things. I want my team to be honest with me, and I want my team to at least explain why they're doing the things that they're doing. I might disagree with it, but I got to see the plan. I just need to know the thinking, and then I can deal. And I don't know what the 49ers are thinking because they're all over the map. And anytime you try to hold them up to any sort of accountability or scrutiny, their whole explanation falls apart.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny, like after the season, they had that press conference where John and Kyle were sitting next to each other. And I asked the question that they answered yesterday. I asked it 2 months ago. I said, who's the starting quarterback when they're both healthy week one? And Kyle said, first, I haven't even thought about that, is what he said. And second, we have two starting quarterbacks. So what I took that was he wasn't ready to bury Trey Lance yet. He understood the implications of his answer and was saying, I'm not going there yet. Something changed in the last 2 months. Was it that Brock Purdy had his surgery and it was good? And now they're like, you know what? Screw Trey Lance. We're good with Brock. It's like, whoa, what happened? You have a totally different story now.
Remember what else Kyle Shanahan said? He said, we're content enough. We don't need a high-profile veteran quarterback. And then they ran out on the first day of the legal tampering period, and they signed Sam Darnold, who they can't sing the praises of enough. Kyle Shanahan at the league meetings. I've always liked Sam as an athlete. I've always liked him as a prospect. I like how he throws. Screw the 56 games of absolute crap that he's put on tape, right? We're going to ignore that. We're going to ignore the 90 interceptions and fumbles he's had in 56 games. And we're going to sign him anyway and give him first team reps over Trey Lance because I like
because Trey Lance's 4 games weren't quite up to what the Niners were hoping for.
How does that make sense? In what universe? Maybe you know more than me, Grant. You're there. You're in the building. August 5th, 2021, Matt Mayoko said Trey Lance is the best rookie quarterback he's ever seen.
I felt the same way.
He's only started 4 games since then. What changed? What did he do that was so terrible now that he's got to beat out Sam Darnold?
Nothing. That's the whole thing, and that's why the Niners should be raked over the coals for this. There is nothing that you could point to in Trey Lance's body of work that means he deserves this. He's not being demoted for his play. He started 4 games, and for a rookie quarterback at his age, he flashed more than enough to say that he could continue playing and has a promising career. They just gave up on him, and it seems like because he got injured, because he missed time, and now instead of prioritizing developing someone who could become special, the Niners have decided all they need is a guy who's cheap they can win with right away. That is what they're looking for. And that's a whole different thing than looking for a great quarterback because the great quarterback takes time and patience and development. It's what, Joe Montana wasn't great right away. Neither was Steve Young. But the Niners, they're looking for functional right away, which is, great. They found it with Brock Purdy, but let me know if that quarterback that they're looking for ever wins a Super Bowl.
And that's the one thing that makes what they've done at quarterback make sense. It's like that joke when you're a kid. If you add the words in bed to the end of every fortune cookie, it makes sense for you, right? No matter what it says. We wish you're going to have fame and good luck in bed. No matter what it says. If you attach the words good enough to the 49ers quarterback decisions, it all makes sense, right? They didn't scout Patrick Mahomes because they were going to get Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins is good enough, right? Yeah. They stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo after 2017 and paid him all that money because he went 5-0 and he was good enough.
Not because he was like, oh man, this guy is going to be a MVP player. No one thought that about Jimmy Garoppolo. It's just, hey man, he's winning and he doesn't require any development. He's good enough right now.
After 2019, they make the Super Bowl. Jimmy stays healthy, right? Tom Brady wants to play for them. No thanks, Tom. We have Jimmy Garoppolo. He's good enough. Yeah. Then Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt in 2020. They freak out. They're like, we have to upgrade. What do we do? Let's go get Matt Stafford. They lose out on Matt Stafford. They did want him. They didn't get him. Then they traded up to number 3, but they didn't trade up for a player. Remember? They traded up for the spot because they figured between Trey Lance and Justin Fields and Mac Jones, one of those guys is going to be good enough.
Yeah.
Every time you look at their quarterback decisions, that's all they wanted is good enough. Just attach those words to it, and suddenly it makes sense. They got Brock Purdy now. Sure, he's coming off career-saving surgery, but Brock showed in 8 games that he's good enough. They don't want superstars.
No, they don't. And it's like Brock Purdy was a step up from Jimmy Garoppolo. Sure. Is he going to be a great quarterback? I don't think so. I mean, if I had to bet today, I would say, no, he's not a great quarterback. What's interesting is, so Kyle has now decided all he needs is a quarterback who's good enough, but not just that, cheap. So on a rookie deal, good enough they can win with. That's Brock Purdy. Not a project. Not a guy with upside. Forget upside. Forget it. Just a guy who's good enough on a rookie deal and cheap. That's not what Jed said. Jed said to win a Super Bowl, you need a quarterback who's at least very good, probably great. And I would love to give one of these 3 quarterbacks one of the massive extensions one day. He wants the franchise quarterback because you can market that guy. You can profit off of that guy. Kyle over here wants to be the main guy on the marquee. So I think he's always going to be, you know what I'm saying? Like he's always going to be telling Jed, oh yeah, man, that franchise quarterback's coming, but it's never coming.
It's never coming. They won't even look at Trey Lance to see if he's a franchise quarterback. They're
going to find a way to bring Kirk Cousins here in a year or 2. That's my hot take. Kyle's going to make that happen.
Mike Florio said this week there was talk of the Cousins trade to the Niners at the Combine.
Cousins will be a free agent next year.
Yep. I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule it out by any stretch. Maxime, thanks for the super chat. There needs to be a congressional inquiry into how the Trey Lance selection went down. What did Kyle know, and when did he know it?
Seriously, though, the whole thing feels unprofessional. You trade up for this guy. He's a person. He's 22. He's a kid. And you break him, break him physically and mentally and write him off after 4 games. It's just so unprofessional. There's nothing that Trey did wrong.
It just doesn't. And then
they soured on him.
He has to compete with Sam Darnold to take snaps away from Trey Lance for Sam freaking Darnold. Awful. He's not good. He's awful. No. Even if you want to say, oh, the 6 games, right? He played better at the end of the season. He only threw multiple touchdown passes in one of those games at the end of the season. Those 6 games that everybody holds up that are so great, right? He averaged 190 pass yards per game in those 6 games. He lost 2 of them, by the way. Here are the quarterbacks that he beat. Russell Wilson, the worst we've ever seen him. Geno Smith, Jared Goff, Andy Dalton. Wow. That's what you're holding up for Sam Darnold. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. But again, if all you're looking for is good enough, 190 yards and, 4-2, that's good enough for the Niners.
But I just think it's funny that the Niners can sift through all the bad with Sam Darnold and like laser focus in on a few good things. But with Trey Lance, it's the opposite. It's like none of the good things he's done counted. And these like 4 bad things are just like damning for him. It's like, seems a little inconsistent. I think I would probably trust my evaluation on the guy with 50 starts more than my evaluation on the guy with 4 starts. And I'd be a little bit more interested on what that guy can do than what this bum can do. But that's me.
And here's the other thing I don't want to hear that doesn't hold up to any scrutiny whatsoever. Well, the 49ers have seen Trey Lance in practice. They know what he had. if they could judge a quarterback based on what they could see in practice, they never would have brought Jimmy back because they had Brock. They couldn't tell that Brock was any good until he actually got in and played.
And you know why that is? Because football practice isn't football. You can't touch the quarterback. They wear a different colored jersey. You literally can't touch them. It's not football. Football is a combat sport. It's a war game. Injuries happen every game. It's different. And so they couldn't tell Brock was special. What they like about Brock was how he played in games, not how he played in practices. He's a gamer, or so they think. So Trey could be a gamer too. It's just that he lacks experience. You don't know what he's going to be on his 20th start. We do know what Sam Darnold's going to be in his 50th start.
The same thing he was in the other 55, which is just awful. Like
a head case.
Seeing
ghosts. No confidence.
Do we forget that? Like, I mean, come on. But
like Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy had confidence before he came to this team. That's what was so cool about him. He strutted around the field like he was freaking Peyton Manning. Sam Darnold isn't that guy at all. And the Niners can think, well, you put him on a good team, it'll boost his confidence. Did that work with Trey? Just putting a guy on this team doesn't necessarily boost his confidence because he's going to be the scapegoat every time for everything.
I just can't imagine how Trey Lance is feeling right now. March 29th. He's busting his ass to try and come back and play. He's coming off a serious ankle injury, and he's got to sit there and listen to his head coach at the meeting say, we love Trey. We think that we're still 100% confident that he's going to be what he was.
Feelings haven't changed at all.
But yet, he's got to beat out Sam Darnold. He's got to split reps. We're taking reps away from him for Sam.
Taking reps away.
Darnold.
So think about it. So Brock Purdy is going to get 0 reps this offseason, potentially. Trey Lance will get some first-team reps. Sam Darnold will get some first-team reps. The Niners won't have a quarterback who's fully prepared for the start of the season, which just means another slow start, most likely, and probably not the number 1 seed.
But we can't start Trey Lance because we're in a Super Bowl window and we have to win now, even though we were 3-4 last year and 3-5 the year before that. But they can't sustain. They can't have it. We can't play Trey Lance because they can't.
Yeah, God forbid Trey Lance has a slow start, but they can weather it with Jimmy.
Right. That's what I don't understand.
Yep.
This, again, hold it up to any type of scrutiny and it just collapses on itself. And I just want a real explanation from them. Just tell us the truth. If you think that you thought that Trey was going to be ready to go when you drafted him and he wasn't, and you just don't have the patience for it, just tell me that. It might be dumb. I might disagree with it, but whatever.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that coaches and teams and GMs think fans are stupid. Sorry. They do. I think they think that you will buy whatever they sell. The troubling thing is that the owner is supposed to be like the real shit tester. Like, you can't lie to him. But it seems like Jed is just like a Niner fan. Like, hey, man, tell me everything's okay, John and Kyle. Tell me everything's okay. And they're like, everything's okay. He's like, thank you. Let's go to Cabo. He organizes the Cabo trip. That's what Kyle said. Jed organizes it.
That is such a bad look, by the way. I continue to say, when you have your clique there down in Cabo, you're telling me those guys don't have extra influence in the locker room? Give me a break.
Invite everyone. You're worth $5 billion. Invite everyone. He's over there bragging about like, oh yeah, if it costs an extra $1 million to win a game, I'll pay it. Okay. Well, do that in Cabo. Because Brandon Ayuk didn't seem to get the invite.
Brandon Ayuk, who's out here tweeting that, he's going to stand on business and he's a 1,000-yard receiver in the 4th option of a run-first offense. And then we hear, oh, by the way, teams are going after Brandon Ayuk at the combine, making offers. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure the 49ers weren't the only ones listening. I'm willing to bet you the 49ers were shopping Lance. They were shopping Elijah Mitchell. And I bet you they were shopping Ayuk.
Yeah, I mean, if they could get a first-round pick for Lance or Ayuk, they might do it. The thing with Ayuk is I feel like it's going to be a very contentious negotiation because Debo, Fred Warner, George Kittle, those guys were all coming off like all-pro Pro Bowl seasons when it was time to negotiate.
Yep.
Ayuk isn't, and it's not his fault. Like, they don't feature him, to his point. But you know how they negotiate. When he sits down, Prog's going to be like, well, you want $20 million a year? You've never been a Pro Bowler. You know what I'm saying? You had one 100-yard year last year. It's like, yeah, man, I don't call my own number. I'm on Ayuk's side on that one.
And look at all the quarterbacks he's played with, too.
True. Yep.
Yeah, True. It's a little dicey to me. And I think that they just are too focused on this window that they think that they have. Right. And it's like if
the window is the quarterback.
Yeah, that's the quarterback.
Tell the people what Joe Burrow said. Tell them.
they asked Joe Burrow, or, look, are you a little worried your window's coming to the end here with this Bengals team? He was like, the window's my whole career.
Yeah.
And when you have a guy, a stud, he's right. It is their whole career. When the 49ers had Steve Young, every year they were Super Bowl contenders because they had Steve Young.
If you have a cornerstone quarterback, a cornerstone player on your offensive line, on your D line, and maybe a go-to guy in the passing game, and you can draft well, dude, Super Bowl. Super Bowl! That's all the Chiefs do. Super Bowl. But that's what the Niners. The Niners build backwards. Let's get the kicker. Let's get the punter. Let's get the long snapper. Let's get the best long snapper. We have the best long snapper. Yeah, you do, man. You really do. Good for you.
Shout out Tabor Pepper. 2.0 watching on YouTube. Thank you very much. If you would bet on Trey being great over Brock at this point, you're delusional. Trey has been there 2 years and hasn't impressed anyone in the room. Time to accept that Trey just might not be good. He's
in the room. On the practice field.
I don't understand
in the room.
How people do not grasp this. He's started 4 games. He's finished 3 of those games. One of those games was in a monsoon. I'm not saying that I think Trey is guaranteed to be a stud. All I'm saying is there is literally no possible way for anyone, you, me, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, Brock Purdy, hell, Trey Lance doesn't even know. There's no way for any of us to know what he is because he just hasn't played enough.
I think a lot of people like 2.0 here have stylistic preferences at quarterback, and they look at Trey Lance as the new style. A guy who has to run RPOs and zone reads to be successful. And I think a lot of people feel like, I don't want that. You can't win a Super Bowl that way. It's like, dude, have you noticed where the league is going the last 5 years? Like, I think a lot of people just want to like hold on to the past and have the offense look like 1998. And that's why they're not into Trey Lance at all. It's like, man, okay, like that's not what they're doing in Philly. It's not what they're doing in Kansas City, but we'll see.
I just don't know, why do people care though? Like, why if you win, does the style really matter? If you win throwing, under
they'll say a zone read quarterback has never won a Super Bowl. Well, Jalen Hurts just put up 35 points in a Super Bowl. It's not exactly his fault. It's not like the offense wasn't working in the Super Bowl. Right. Like Colin Kaepernick put up 31 in a Super Bowl. Like I do think also Nick Foles literally won the Super Bowl throwing RPOs. Literally did that.
Tom Brady threw for 500 yards in that Super Bowl and lost.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you can win a Super Bowl with this style of play.
Oh man, I'm terrible with pronunciations. If you're familiar with this, Grant, help me out.
Let's go with Novin.
Novin on YouTube. Thank you very much. I can't believe how this organization treated Trey Lance. Trey needs to prove he can stay healthy, which is what John Lynch said. Felt like 49er football. That was, I think, was that Kyle Juszczyk when Trey Lance got hurt and Jimmy came in? McGlinchey not helping him up.
Also Trent Williams.
Yeah, I don't. There were other times where they didn't help guys up. Jimmy and Brock never needed to prove anything. Well, Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't stay healthy. They kept carting his ass out there. He got hurt in 2018. He got hurt in 2020. He was hurt in 2021. They put him out there when he couldn't even throw. So don't tell me that Trey needs to stay healthy when Jimmy's kept getting hurt and they kept putting him out there. And by the way, Brock got hurt twice in his 8 games.
It just feels like the test is one start. Right. Do you win your first start with the 49ers? Trey didn't. He lost in Arizona to a team that was undefeated. Well, that's it. That's it. That was the test, and he failed the test. It's like in the Matrix, right? The first test, you got to jump over the building.
Yep.
And everyone fails it the first time. Like, that's what happens. But with the Niners, it's like,
failed it. You're right.
Dude, Brock won his first start. Oh, he's our guy. Jimmy won his first start. Oh, man. It's such a good feeling. Oh, Trey lost his first start? See ya, dude. Sorry. That's so insane when you break it down like that. But that's how they do it.
Who else won it? Colin Kaepernick won his first start against the Bears.
Oh, yes,
on Monday Night Football. Remember that?
Yes, he did.
He kicked the hell out of
it. Yes, he did. And then I asked after that game, I said, hey, Jim Harbaugh, who's your quarterback next week? And he said, I like to go with the hot hand, so it's going to be Colin. And I was like, yes! I asked the question. Great.
You're right. It's that. And then Trey lost his first start against the Bears. In a rainstorm, the field was melting. You can go look on Twitter. It looks like a friggin' impressionist painting. It looks like a Monet. When you see that the numbers on the field were melting, the TV crew had to put the snow graphics on there.
But think about the Niners mentality. When they win, it's because of them. When they lose, it's the quarterback's fault. So if you lose week 1, I don't care that it was a monsoon. It's no one else's fault. It can't be the defense's fault because they're the best defense. It can't be Kyle's fault because he's the best coach. It can't be Trey Williams' fault because he's the best left tackle. It has to. That's how it is, man. You lose your first start with the Niners, you're gone. Goodbye. Peyton Manning, you come here, you lose your first start, you're a bum. Bring back Jimmy. It's insane.
And so now, when the league meetings, you've got John Lynch saying, we hope that, John Lynch says, we hope Brock's going to be ready to go by training camp. The next day, Kyle Shanahan says he might not be back until week 4. And the word from the 49ers beat writers is, oh, that's okay. That's just, they look at things differently. One guy's an optimist, one guy's a pessimist. How about these two dudes are wildly out of sync when it comes to expectations for the quarterback position. Wildly out of sync. And yet the message that we got from a lot of the 49ers press corps is everything's cool. It's all fine.
I feel like Lynch is a little bit more desperate for Brock to work out. I mean, look at Lynch's resume. He traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. He thought that was the biggest grand slam of all time. He thought he fleeced Bill Belichick. Well, you didn't. So that was not a win for John Lynch. Then he traded for Trey Lance. That's one of the worst trade-ups in NFL draft history as is right now, given that they've moved on from him, at least mentally. So what has he got on his resume at the quarterback position? Failure. He needs Brock to hit so he can say, I found a franchise quarterback. I don't think Kyle cares. Kyle isn't tied to a quarterback. His resume is ironclad. He could say, I'll win with Sam. I don't care. Or I'll win with someone different next year. I'll get Kirk Cousins next year. I think Kyle feels he's made. He's untouchable. And I think John feels that his resume is a little flimsy at the quarterback position. If he doesn't work this out with Brock, he might be back in the booth soon. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I think if anybody was going to pay the price with their job in San Francisco, Lynch is going to pay that price before Kyle. Kyle hired Lynch. So, right. I mean, literally, somebody asked, I don't know if it was you, asked John Lynch, like, are you going to be the GM here? And he looked at Kyle and said, am I okay? And then then he said, yeah, I want to be here. He literally looked over at Kyle.
And he was like, haha, it's a joke. But like, there's truth to it. There's a lot of truth to it.
Yeah. Behind every joke, there's at least some truth. So I don't know if that's what it is. I do think it's really, really frustrating that the 49ers just made this mistake. They were so sure Jimmy was the guy after 5 games. They paid him all that money, and then they ultimately end up paying a king's ransom to try and move off of Jimmy Garoppolo. Yet Brock Purdy has played 8 games, and they're going to do the same thing when he's coming off career-altering surgery.
Let's talk. I want to change the conversation in a minute. We've just talked about pretty much Trey for the last 22 minutes and how it's not really fair what they've done to Trey. Let's talk about Brock. I feel like they're putting Brock in a very, very tough situation here. Yes. And it reminds me of what Kyle and his dad did with RG3. Okay? You got a very promising quarterback. Now, RG3 was much more gifted than Brock Purdy, but still, like, instant success. RG3 was the freaking rookie of the year, and Brock Purdy might have been as well had he played the whole year. Gets hurt, serious injury. And then you rush him back, and you're like, no, we need you. You're a starter. You're good. He's good. He's good. And you freaking ruin him. So I'm a little worried for Brock, man. Like, they're going to throw you out there as soon as you're ready with no prep, especially if Trey Lance loses a game or two. And is that in your best interest long term? Because if they throw you out there too early, you get hurt, and they ruin you, Kyle won't care. He won't care. He will move on to the next quarterback. Quarterbacks are so replaceable. There's a ton of quarterbacks in the world who are good enough for him.
And if you remember what Kyle said at the league meetings, he said, let's see if I can throw the quote up on screen. He said, we'll see in 3 months if Brock will be ready for camp. If Brock throws and he's a little sore, it might be week 1. So if you're Brock Purdy and you throw and you're feeling a little twinge in your arm,
suck it up.
Are you going to run to Kyle and say, hey, my arm hurts? Put in Sam, put in Trey Lance, and hey, I may never get this job back? Or are you going to shut up, put some ice on it, and rub it with dirt? You don't want to lose your job.
See, that's what's going to happen. I feel like they're putting Brock in the situation like, hey, man, you're the leader in the clubhouse, but if you're not here week 1, someone could pass you. So what are you going to do? Of course we know what Brock's going to do. He's going to get his ass on the field for week 1. Is that the best thing for the team and for him? I don't think so. It's the same situation with RG3. Hey, man, you want to play? Of course I want to play. He's going to say, yes, I'm hurt, but I'm going to play through this. Save him from himself, because it's not just about you or him. It's about the organization, the franchise. Like, Washington sucks, and they've sucked since the 80s. But they had that one year where they looked like they might have some hope with RG3 and a franchise quarterback, and now they're back to sucking again for the last 10 years. there's a lot at stake with these quarterbacks. It's bigger than a couple people.
And I would knock Brock, by the way, if he didn't tell Kyle Shanahan that his arm is hurting, because he wants to keep his job. That's only natural. But it's a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we don't know what this kind of injury is. And I thought Stefania Bell from ESPN had a good line with Steph Sanchez on Steph's YouTube channel. She said, it's not about return to play with any injury, especially major injury. It's about return to performance. When can you get back and be what you were before you went out, if ever? It's not just can you play. Brock played with the UCL torn. He was in the game in the NFC Championship game.
Right.
When can he look the way he needs to look? And is he going to be able to say in week 1, you know what? I'm almost there. I'm not quite there yet. Just give me a few weeks and I'll get there. Or is he going to say, I can't afford to not be in there because I might never get a shot again?
Also, with Brock, they don't know that he'll ever be able to return to the level of performance he showed last year. They don't know.
But they're acting like they are. They're acting like they do.
Yeah, they are acting, which is amazing. It's like, again, you guys, your track record of, first of all, none of you guys are doctors. And your track record of predicting anything in the future is so bad, but you're feeling confident about this one. Okay. Good.
Kaliki Carroll, and forgive me if I said your name wrong. I apologize. I want to see Trey in the Brock Purdy offense before decisions are made. Trey showed in the Texans game he could roll out and read play action. Then he starts and is used as a fullback. Give Trey the same offense with Christian McCaffrey. I think a lot of 49er fans feel that way.
When they drafted him, they said, look, I thought the reason they took him over Justin Fields was that Justin Fields is a better athlete, but Justin Fields was in a spread offense. Trey Lance played under center in college. Trey Lance is going to sit for a year and learn to play the position the right way. Then when he plays, he's freaking Tim Tebow. Like, no, that's not what you said. If you wanted an athlete at quarterback, Justin Fields is much more athletic than Trey Lance. The whole thing with Trey Lance is as a traditional quarterback, he gives you mobility. He's a scrambler. But the Niners never use him that way. I don't get that.
And
he's like that one time, and they freaking won.
Trey's a very good scrambler. He's not great on the design runs, but as a scrambler, he's very shifty and he can gain yards. It's almost
kind of like Josh Allen. They don't do a ton of design runs for Josh Allen, but as a scrambler, wow, he's tough to stop.
My egotistic aura says Brock payday, no longer Trey day. Arrivederci. All right. That's, again, we're awful quick.
Tupac died before Trey Lance was born, and Brock.
Wait,
he has no skin in this fight. Leave Tupac alone.
I thought he was still alive. Another one from Kaliki here. Both a big fan of both shows. Love this collab. Thanks for asking the hard questions, Grant. Yeah, you were asking Jed. You're asking John. You're asking Kyle. You were everywhere, man.
It's my first time doing it, and it's funny. Like, I want to give Matt Mayoko credit too. Me and him were like tag team in the quarterback question, but a lot of times beat writers know what the coach doesn't want to be asked, and they want to have a good relationship with the coach, so they just take the path of least resistance. And I'm not that kind of guy. Like, I'm not trying to be Kyle's friend, so I wanted that question. And I like when Kyle gets pissed at me because those are fun posts to put on YouTube. So to his credit, he was very professional.
What is the value, though, of having access if you're not going to ask the questions?
None. No value. Like, are you just there to schmooze with someone? Like, that's not the job. And I remember I looked at your Twitter before the thing, and you said, I want these questions answered. I asked him. I said, are Trey and Sam competing? Are they sharing reps? That was your question. And he said yes. And that was news. Everyone went with that. But no, I asked the question because you told me to. Anyway, AD49er says, oh, you ask these questions, they'll pull your credential. No, they won't. No one is going to get their credential pulled for a question they ask. So it's just people like need to, have some courage.
Yeah, you can't go that hard, he said. Like, yeah, sorry I asked if a player was shopped. Oh, that's such a...
Yes, you can.
Like, such an unrealistic, unreasonable question. Now, are they going to answer it? Who knows? But ask it. I hate when people just assume what the answers are going to be. Let them speak.
Put them on the spot. Put them on the record.
Exactly. Corey.
And the thing with Kyle is he often says too much.
They all say too much.
He often says too much. Yeah, that's true.
Corey watching on YouTube says, well, now that he's QB2, QB3, Trey Lance is probably going to run the Purdy offense, right? I wouldn't think it's going to be tailored to him anymore.
That's an interesting point. I've thought of that as well. Now that he's no longer the guy, maybe the whole zone read stuff is out and he's allowed to like prove himself on the merits of a quarterback as opposed to a dual threat. Because he's gotten injured as a dual threat twice.
I just think it's interesting that like once a guy gets in and starts to have a little success, all of a sudden you hear all these good things about him. Remember when Fred Warner said Trey Lance was dicing people up in practice? Like, okay, so then wait a minute. I thought the
What happened
practice
to that?
was the thing that held Trey Lance back because he was so bad in practice. So is Fred Warner lying or like again when
also Brock Purdy breaks out and people start telling these stories about, oh yeah, man, I saw it in practice. He was so good. Oh yeah, you didn't say that before though, right? He was third in the depth chart and no one was saying this. And Jimmy was playing and no one was like, hey, we need to see Brock. Like when Jimmy stepped out of the end zone in Denver and the Niners lost to a terrible team, no one on the team said, hey, what about Brock? He was there in training camp. He's prepared. He's great. I didn't hear that. I heard we're back to 49 football. We love Jimmy. So I feel like a lot of these guys are just full of it when they talk about their quarterback evaluations. No one knows. No one knows until they're in the game and we all see it for ourselves.
Jimmy had an interception, a fumble, and a safety in that Broncos game. And then he did it again against the Chiefs. He had 2 of those games in 1 year. And yep, that's 49er football. People love him. I just
also put up 14 points against Atlanta. 14.
I just want to know how these people are doing in training camp. How is it that I don't know how Trey performed in training camp to begin this year? I don't know. Same thing with Brock. Some people said, oh, yeah, we saw it in training camp. And then Jason Aponte was there in training camp, and he said Brock looked awful in training
Brett
camp.
Coleman said he saw it. It's like, yeah, again, you said that after Brock broke out. You didn't say that, and so you can't say it now. I didn't see it with Brock because, again, what makes Brock a gamer is his surprising level of confidence and calmness on the field and his mobility and ability to escape pressure. You don't see that in practice. He just looks like a little guy throwing short passes in practice. It's not impressive. But in a game, it's like, wow, how did he get away from that dude? Wow. That was impressive. He's freaking Houdini out there. Like, that is impressive. But you don't see that in practice. And then with Trey, like, his numbers were inconsistent, but the context was he's going against the number 1 defense. No one's open. He's got Brandon Ayuk, and that's about it. And some people crushed him for it. Some people gave him the context. It's hard to judge it. It's practice.
What's the best throw you've ever seen Brock Purdy make? And can you even name one that jumps to mind? And I know
it's not the throw. It's like the play. You know what I'm saying? Like the 2 plays. One where he extended the play to against the Cowboys in the playoffs. Did he roll left or he scrambled left? He found Kittle back on the right. He wasn't even in the pattern. Just that level of improv was impressive. And it was like one of the bigger plays in the game. Even though they only scored 19 points. That was nice. And then the one that Ayuk dropped in the back of the corner of the end zone where he scrambled left, scrambled right, scrambled left, scrambled right. Like, that was cool. Those were the 2 plays, but it's like he's never going to make a throw from the pocket that you're like, oh my God, that was a thing of beauty. I'm a tear just dropped from my eye because of that. Like, that's not who he is. It's not who he is. He's a little Fran Tarkenton out there scrambling around. It's fun to watch. He's Peter Pan.
Even that incompletion to Ayuk, the throw itself was a regular type throw. The play, the scrambling before that was amazing. The one throw I think of with Brock is one of his first throws against the Dolphins. Kittle actually brought this up because it was the throw he
against the blitz. Yeah, sure.
Yes. And that was a great read and a great throw. Absolutely. Yeah. But other than that, I can't really think of one. I can think of the long touchdown he had to Ayuk where the ball was underthrown and almost intercepted against, I think it was Tampa Bay. I can think of that one. I can't think of like the stud throw. It's like, to me, I would feel so much better about the 49ers quarterback situation if they said, we're going to give Trey the year, or at least first half of the year, and Brock's going to be the number 2 when he's healthy. Like, holy hell. Then all of a sudden I feel really good about the 49ers quarterback situation.
No, Brock's never going to make wow throws. He's never going to make wow throws. The best part of his game is his calmness, his vision, his ability to find open guys like late in the down and to create. And that's all good stuff. I like all that stuff, but is it enough? It's good enough for Kyle. Is it good enough for a Super Bowl victory? We don't know. With Trey, I mean, I can think of a wow throw right now in Chicago last year, second quarter to Ray. I in the press box, I was behind it and I thought, don't throw that. Don't throw that. He's not open. And when the ball was in the air, I thought it was going to be picked and he was like layered it between 2 guys. I was like, wow, I thought it was like, not just was it a great throw. It was a confident throw from a quarterback who hasn't played much and really has no experience to build confidence on. I was like, wow, I wouldn't have thrown that. And he did. I don't know that Brock would have.
Or the throw to Ayuk. I can't remember who was it against Arizona on the left side. Ayuk's one-on-one on the left, and Lance rips it to the sideline. I don't even know how it got in there. He ripped it.
Yes.
I want all the stuff you just described about Brock is a perfect description of a backup quarterback to me.
Yep.
And all the stuff we're talking about with Trey is what you hope for a high-end starter. Now, there's other stuff that goes along with that, to be fair.
Right.
I want to be fair and honest. But to me, I want my starter to be a guy that is at least capable of that stuff. David Hasselhoff, watching on YouTube. David Hasselhoff, huh? Okay. Trey had a few throws in 4 games that Brock could never make. Trey can make every throw Brock made in 8 games. With a lot of exclamation points.
But again, Kyle traded up for C.J. Beathard, who's never made a wow throw in his life. Like, I don't think this is something Kyle cares about, which is why we're in this situation.
Robert Bentello on YouTube. Trey should get at least 8 games to prove he belongs. That gives Brock extra time to heal and see what we have in Trey. We've been 3-5 before and been okay, which is kind of the point we made earlier. I almost wonder, Grant, if maybe can you put Brock on the PUP list to start the year? Because then you take all the pressure off of Brock because he can't come back, and you take some of the pressure off of Trey because he's not looking over your shoulder because he's on the PUP list, and then you can say to him, hey, you got 6 games, take it or leave it,
Yeah, but that would express confidence in Trey, and the Niners, everything they're saying is no confidence in Trey, super desperate for Brock to come back. He's going to play as soon as he's ready. So PUP, I mean, that would be 6 weeks, right?
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't know if they're willing to do that. I feel like they're going to say, Brock, get your ass out there. In so many words.
That not only takes the pressure off of Brock to come back, it takes the pressure off of Trey because he's not going to have somebody looking over his shoulder, or at least not Brock looking over his shoulder. And it's a get out of jail free card for Kyle Shanahan and the Niners, so to speak, because they could just be like, hey, Brock's ready to go. Trey hasn't been great. We're making the switch now. I told you in March that Brock was the starting quarterback.
Yep. Hey, I think it's a smart plan, and that's why I think the Niners won't do it. I think it's great, though. A hell of a suggestion. If they're listening, they should do it.
Listen, I'm full of good
me and you, as honorary quality control, spend so many hours of our lives trying to fix the Niners' preposterous situations. And sometimes we get solutions, but it's all for naught. That was a good one.
It's an honor to be in the quality control.
It's a way of life. Anyone can be quality control. You just have to want to do it. Not a lot of people do these days. Thankless job. Thankless job.
My egotistical aura says we don't have 8 games to lose with Trey. No way. Why do you think you're going to lose 8 games?
0-8?
Why?
I think anyone playing with Christian McCaffrey and Kittle and Debo and Ayuk is going to look good. I think that's what we're seeing with Brock. Remember, Jimmy played really well as soon as McCaffrey came on the team.
Yes, he did.
The offense got a little bit better with Brock. But let's see what Trey looks like with McCaffrey. I'm thinking that's going to look good too. I mean, they could average 5.5 yards per carry as a team with Lance and McCaffrey running the zone read. I'm just saying.
2.0. Trey should enter into a long throw contest. If he doesn't have to throw with timing, accuracy, or touch, he would be elite. Again, there's so much hate for this guy. Not just like, hey, we haven't seen it with Trey. That's the weird part, is that the reaction from his own fans is not.
We've seen enough. 2.0 has seen enough. But again, right. 2.0 is a much better, he's just a more astute observer than anyone else. So most people need to see 25, 30 games from a quarterback. He needs 4. And so to that, I just say congratulations. It's impressive that you're so good at watching football.
But this is the weird part. I could understand if non-49er fans were like, hey, right. Trey ain't it. These are his own fans that are sure that not just that he's not going to be elite, that he stinks, that he's bad. They know.
But can't we blame the organization set up this situation by always giving the fans 2 quarterbacks to choose from? It's Brock or Trey. Now it's Trey or Sam. It's like with Philly, when they decided it wasn't Wentz anymore, you're gone, and we're going to eat the dead cap hit because you're gone, and Jalen's a starter, and we're not bringing in a competition. We're bringing in a backup. That way, the locker room has no choice but to get on board. The fan base has no choice but to get on board. The Niners have been giving their fans choices for years. So you're going to have people like 2.0 who feel the way they do. I mean, the Niners created this situation.
That's a great point, by the way, because not just did the Carson Wentz thing, did they eat the cap hit? They ate the biggest cap hit in the history of the NFL. to clear
And it was the right
deck.
thing to do.
Yes.
It was the right thing to do.
And
it was the right thing to do.
Never cleared the deck for Trey Lance. Never.
And remember last year, like we were talking about, just having Jimmy Garoppolo lurking over Trey's shoulder is not going to be good for Trey. And people were like, oh, what are you talking about? Joe Montana, Steve Young had to compete. It's like, hey, this is what we were talking about. This is exactly what we're talking about.
And you eliminate so much. You eliminate any questions to any of the other players. Hey, what about this? Should this guy have been in? Should Brock have been in? Should Trey get in? Does Brock look healthy? You eliminate all that because there's no other option. But the 49ers are terrified to do that because they think they might lose games.
One more. When the Chiefs went to Patrick Mahomes, did they say, you know what? We believe in Patrick Mahomes, but just in case, we're going to keep Alex Smith as the backup. No, you know why? Because it's stupid. It would have been stupid. They got rid of Alex Smith, and they went all in with Patrick Mahomes.
And they can say, oh, well, they were sure with Patrick Mahomes. But again, you cannot
no, you
be
never
sure
know. You never
until
know.
they play.
You never
It's
know.
impossible. Tyler watching on YouTube. I don't know why Trey gets so much hate from his own fan base. Neither do I. Some people think that there's a racial component to that. I have no idea. I'm not.
Is it possible that the Colin Kaepernick experience traumatized some people, and some people, when they squint hard enough, kind of just see Colin Kaepernick and they're like, no, fuck this. I'm not doing this again.
But what was so traumatizing about the Colin Kaepernick experience when they almost?
Well,
won
it ended up. Yeah, I know, right? Well, yeah, I know. It's a good question. Honestly, it was a more fruitful. He had a better era than Jimmy, but it ended up with a lot of losing and political divided. So a lot of people remember that part. But it's not like Trey has ever said a political thing in his life. All he does is try to say the right thing and be a good teammate and be a good coachable kid. And people are like, no, fuck you. Like, whoa, dude.
Yeah.
What has he done? What has he done?
I understand it. I really don't. And it's just, I've never seen a quarterback treated like this before, ever, especially by his own team.
It's weird. Again, Jamarcus Russell got 20 starts. Every bust ever got 20 starts. Johnny Manziel, like, you can't, it's so unprofessional to do this to a guy after 4 starts and an injury that you were complicit in. I'm not saying responsible. I'm going to use the verb complicit. Complicit. 2nd and 8 up the middle. Like, give him a chance to play quarterback before you write him off.
And now we're in a weird spot because now Brock has incentive to rush back. The 49ers have incentive to play Brock before he's ready. And they're splitting reps between Sam Darnold and Trey Lance, which, as you correctly pointed out, is not fair to either one of those guys and is going to lead them to be less prepared than they would have been had they received all the first-team reps.
A quarterback competition in the 80s and 90s when you had 2-a-days and stuff, like there were reps for that. Like now, these are like hour-and-a-half practices, man. This is different.
I want full report. I am usually the guy in the preseason who says, shut up. I don't care about what your preseason practice numbers were. Now I want every single one.
No.
Because we don't have any idea how they practiced last year. So I need all the information now.
So my game that I play in training camp is going as close to the line without crossing it. Because what you need to do is bring the fans to the practice through your words. And you have to describe as much as possible. But the team doesn't want you to talk about formations or personnel groups. So you have to find what the line is and come as freaking close to crossing it as possible because your allegiance is not to the Niners, it's to your readers. So what you got to do. You got to find that line. And the only way to find it might be to cross it one time and be like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I couldn't do that. I didn't know I couldn't do that. Oh, you're right. Forgot. Sorry. I would never work like that.
What you just said is that should be the mission statement for everybody that writes about the team. Your job is to serve the audience. It's a service job. It is not to make sure the team is happy with what you say. And so I want
And it's crazy because it seems so obvious, but when you get in the industry, most people do what you just said. And I feel like what the owners' meetings is a schmoozing time for media to go hang out with Kyle and be like, hey, Kyle, can I buy you a drink? Can we hang out? I really like you. Are we friends? Like, no, I'm not. No, absolutely not. I'm still going to be that guy asking you why you did what you did when you lost to the Broncos. Nothing going to change.
Speaking of practices, by the way, just when you thought the 49ers were done with one James Garoppolo, we hear that now they're working on joint practices with the Las Vegas Raiders, which I cannot wait for. Fred Warner's going to eat once more, baby. Jimmy's going to be throwing those picks left and right, and Raider fans are going to be the ones sweating it out and saying it's not a big deal.
Yeah. I'm kind of rooting for Jimmy Garoppolo to do well with the Raiders. I don't care about Jimmy, but if Jimmy plays well and stays healthy, that's not good for the 49ers. Not good, especially if he stays healthy. Forget about him playing well. Forget about him playing well. He's Jimmy. We know how he's going to play. If he stays healthy, that opens up a can of worms for the 49ers, especially if their quarterbacks get hurt this year. So I'm interested in that. But I'm really glad that the joint practices are in Vegas because I like Vegas. It's a great town I think people go there for gambling and like tricking.
Yes.
It's great for restaurants. It is a great restaurant town. Great food. So I like that. And it's close. It's an hour flight as opposed to Minnesota last year. So thank you.
That's going to be fascinating. I'm fascinated to hear how the 49ers press corps will cover Jimmy Garoppolo for those practices now that he is not the quarterback.
Me too. It's suddenly will the spreadsheet think that he's not good? I wonder. How does that work?
Here's what I know. I know that I heard that Jimmy Garoppolo was such a great leader for years and years and years. And then Matt Barrows wrote a column in The Athletic. It said, what are the Raiders getting with Jimmy Garoppolo? And in bold letters, it said, what is Jimmy Garoppolo not, a leader? And I almost bashed my head against the table. So
what about all that professionalism and the fact that all of his, that's so funny. Did you hear that line that Kyle had yesterday? Like someone said, have you talked to Jimmy? Have you talked to Jimmy? He was like, no, the only way you talk to Jimmy is if you physically run into him. That was hilarious.
But he didn't ghost the team, right? Oh no, he didn't ghost the team. Mike Silver made that up, right?
Right. But I think what's important to remember is that the Niners deep down don't have a problem with the way Jimmy Garoppolo plays quarterback. They traded for him. Their problem with Jimmy was that. That was it. They want someone who's more committed 12 months of the year than Jimmy. That's it. Otherwise, the way he stands still and throws those 10-yard passes, they love that. They freaking love it.
But it's understandable to commit to Jimmy before you knew that, right? Because they didn't know that after 2017. They signed him to a contract that offseason, and then he immediately began ghosting them. But then they stuck with him after 2019 when they did know that he was ghosting them. Why?
That's on them.
To bring it full circle, because they thought he was good enough.
Good enough? Yeah, that's on them. You found out what he was. And that's the thing. The Niners, I feel like early on, early 2019, they were like, he had that 5 interception practice in training camp. And Mike Silver reported that, there's a short leash with Jimmy actually. And they love the way Nick Mullins runs the offense. Like they saw it early like we did, but they never traded him. Never got a damn thing for Jimmy Garoppolo. And every year his trade value went down. And they were like, well, we're going to hold on to him one more year to bring his trade value up. Like, no, you're not. He's just going to get hurt again. And everyone's just, his value is going to sink because it's going to be cemented his reputation. He's injury prone. And so the Niners now, like, they're down on Trey, right? Okay, we'll trade him. They won't. Oh, maybe we'll inflate, maybe we'll, resuscitate his value. You won't, because you're going to keep saying stuff that makes it sound like he's trash. Other than that, though.
Tyler Caressly says, what do you think Niner fans are going to be talking about during training camp, seeing James Garoppolo going against the Niners? It depends, right? If it's Trey Lance, see, this is the situation, right? Trey's getting the reps. He has a bad practice. Jimmy has a good practice. And, oh, man, 49ers Twitter is going to explode.
Here's the thing. I don't think this spreadsheet wants to be the bearer of bad news. So I don't think he's going to go there and be like, you know what? Jimmy's really good. Trey looks like crap. The Niners messed up. That's not really his MO. One guy on the beat who has no qualms of doing that, to his credit, Jack Hammer. Jack Hammer will do it. Jack Hammer will go to Vegas if he goes, and he doesn't care about being popular. He doesn't have an agenda. He is true to himself. Often I agree with Jack Hammer. We could be standing and watching the same freaking practice, and I'll disagree with him. But I got to give him credit. He's not playing to the crowd. He's not trying to say what's popular. In fact, he will put himself out there and say the most unpopular thing. So I want to give Jack that credit.
Well, good. What the hell are the rest of you people doing?
I'm saying, Jack, because Jack was a reader of mine for like 10 years. He finally got a press pass, and I approve of how he covers practices. He is so true to himself.
Yeah, but is his name really Jack Hammer?
I don't know.
Like the Hammer family when he was born.
I would think probably. I don't know. That's a
Maybe
better
his
question
name
for
is
him.
John. Maybe his name is John, and he goes by Jack Hammer because Jack Hammer is a pretty cool name.
It's a great name. I don't know. That's a better question for him.
I want to know. People need to know Jack, and your air quotes. I want to know. Damn it, is that really your first name? But whatever. We like the coverage, so please do that. Be honest. That's all we want as fans.
Be honest. Be honest.
Honesty, and we can decide for ourselves. Just tell us what happened. Don't keep it a secret.
Because I think fans understand too, like there's a lot going on at a practice, and not every beat writer is going to see it the same way. But as long as you are transparent, you do your best to give, not just say what happened and summarize it, but to describe it. Fans will read every single practice report. They'll try to sift through and find what's real. And as a subjective watcher, I understand that I don't catch everything. And that if I were you, I'd be reading every practice report too. I do read every practice report. I want to know what Jack thought he saw. I want to know what David thought he saw, because I don't see everything. And a lot of times on the sideline, hey, was that a completion? Did you see that? Like, we try to compare notes sometimes so that readers aren't totally confused by wildly, separate reports, but do what you can.
That's the other thing too, is that I don't think people understand. I mean, you can explain this if I'm off base. They don't exactly put you front and center to watch the practices. They put you kind of far away, and it's not just, okay, quarterbacks are throwing, no one else on the practice field is doing anything, so that's all you have to watch. There's always different things going on at different places, so you could be watching Charvarius Ward, and guess what? Quarterbacks are throwing over here. Maybe you missed a throw that Jack Hammer or Jennifer Lee Chan or somebody saw, and it ends up being kind of an important play, and they write it up. So it's not just one thing happening at one time at practice, right?
No, I mean, early on, they'll have like one-on-ones, and they'll have simultaneously wide receivers against corners, linebackers and safeties against tight ends and running backs. And it'll be like all over. It's like, and then O-line against D-line. So you have 3 one-on-ones going at the same time. It's like, and then people say, so how did so-and-so do on one-on-ones? I don't know. I was only watching one of them. So that one's tough. And then during like 11-on-11s, you're not allowed to stand in the end zone. So you can't see the end zone view. You have to stand on the sideline. You're not elevated. So you have like 53 players standing there. They're all 6'5", and you're like running around trying to get like little angles to sometimes it's kind of hard to see football from like, it's better to be perched up. You see it better. So it's kind of tough.
Yeah. Grant is talking about how difficult it is.
It is not easy, man. It's not easy. I mean, you could watch it, but like the question is, you'll do a show afterwards and people are like, so what did so-and-so do? What did so-and-so do? Like there's 90 people on the field, man.
Right.
And I'm trying to get as much raw data in my notebook as possible. It's not easy.
And some of those people you've never freaking seen before, by the way, because they're God knows who from God knows where. And it's going to be tough.
You get these questions. You'll be like, Trey Lance completed a throw to Brandon Ayuk. Who was in coverage? Well, who was in coverage? That's a tough one. Like, you got to get as much in your notebook as you possibly, because it's a fair question. Who was in coverage? You either know or you don't. Was it zone? I don't know.
Right. For every play.
Yeah.
Every big
every
completion.
Play. Yeah. Who was covering?
So
was it a good read? Was someone else open? Yeah, it's hard.
And it's going to get tougher because now there's only one cutdown day. So the rosters are going to be at 90 until after the 3rd preseason game, which, by the way, that's going to be a Twitter day. My God, people are going to be getting cut left and right. GMs are going to be going nuts trying to sign people, get people on the practice squad. Like, man.
Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
This is the business we've chosen.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Now we got a little bit of a dead period, though. We got a month to kill before the draft when the Niners have no pick until pick 99.
Until they trade Trey Lance and get...
they could have the 29th pick in the draft this year, but they traded it for the opportunity to bury a kid after 4 starts. So,
oh God,
it's just good process.
That's all. That's really what it is. That's
really what it is.
Trade away 3 first-round picks, draft a guy, do everything you can to keep him off the field, then draft your real quarterback with the last pick in the draft in the 7th round.
See? People are too caught up in the results. Yeah, sure, Trey Lance hasn't worked out, but the process made sense, so it's okay.
God, how lucky are they? And if they don't hire Brian Greasy, does anybody even pound the table for Brock Purdy to be taken with that last pick in the draft?
Great question. Great freaking question.
Well, it's never dull with the 49ers. Everybody, thank you for listening.
Hold on, we got 2.0 left. We got to get 2.0.
Oh.
And we got to get Charles Tribble. Those are the last 2.
I apologize. 2.0.
People
It's not
flip
that
out.
we don't like Trey. It's that we don't think he's a good quarterback. Important difference. Purdy was an upgrade immediately and was embraced. Trey looked completely lost. It was brutal to watch. He looked completely lost. I mean,
Yeah, I just don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that either, man.
He didn't look completely lost. I don't think he looked completely lost against Chicago. I thought he looked like Justin Fields the first 3 quarters, and then the game got out of hand with the rain. Like, I like Justin Fields too. Maybe 2.0 thinks Justin Fields is trash, but Bears don't. Bears are building around him. They're giving him a real chance. They're not hedging their bets over in Chicago. So I don't know. I still feel like 2.0 and people like him have a stylistic preference at quarterback. Maybe we all do. I don't know.
Yeah, looked lost. What are you basing that on? How did you wanted him to look a certain? Yeah, right. Like
when?
Now, granted, the interception that Lance threw at the end of that game was a bad interception, but that's part of the learning curve that all guys have to go through that the Niners don't seem willing to tolerate.
Dude, Purdy threw some inadvisable passes that got dropped, or his interception percentage was kind of high. Yeah.
That Ayuk luckily bailed him out on. Charles Tribble says, didn't Fred Warner say Lance was shredding them up in practice when Jimmy was throwing him all the picks? Yes, he did. Unsolicited, Fred Warner said that, by the way. He just brought it up out of the blue.
He did, which is wild. 2.0 has one last response, and we're out of here. No, and then Brent Jones is watching the show as well.
Brent Jones, former tight end?
Hey.
San Francisco 49ers? Trey deserves his chance. They competed against each other for the starting job. End of story. Settle it on the field. Half a season of Trey, half for Brock. May the best man win. They could do that if they wanted to.
Or they go back to that 2-quarterback system they were flirting with in 2021. What happened to that?
The
2.0 says 1 offensive TD in 2 out of his 3 starts with that roster. Come on. Hey, Jimmy Garoppolo put up how many points in Denver when he lost with the same team? Like, the offense took off when McCaffrey got here. It sucked. And then they had to trade like a whole draft for McCaffrey to bail him out. And he did. And then Jimmy started playing well. And then Purdy came in. Like, I'd like to see Brock Purdy. I'd like to see Trey Lance start a 5th game with Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle on the field before I make a definitive argument about what he is. 2.0, though, has seen enough after 4 starts.
4 starts. That's it. We've decided.
He's astute. He's a very astute observer. Got to give him credit.
Baker Mayfield set the rookie record for touchdown passes his first year with the Browns. So I guess he's awesome, right? Because he's great. He started way more than 4 games, so he must be
instant success,
bona fide Pro Bowler, right?
Instant success, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's
Freeman
how it works.
Had 26 touchdowns and 2 interceptions one year. He's like in the Hall of Fame now, right? He played a few years ago. That's all we
Josh
need to
Freeman,
see, right?
Nick Bosa. I mean, Nick Foles did that.
Josh Freeman did it too with Bucks. It was something like 26-2 or 26-4. It was some ridiculous season like that. He had a really good year, and then guess what? Defenses adjust. Teams change.
Oh yeah, you're right.
You.
He really did. 25-6. That's amazing. Yeah. He did. Wow. How did I remember? Wow, how did I forget that? Wow.
Because
amazing.
Josh
he was
Freeman,
terrible,
and he stunk the rest of the time. That's why you forgot it. That's the point.
That's true.
That's don't know anything yet, and for the 49ers to act like they do, it's really, really weird.
All right. Well, that was a hell of a show. I'm liking this simulcast. I think it's good. I think we're in the future. I think we're going to move this to earlier in the morning because you're on the East Coast. So I think what I'm going to do is flip you and Jose. Do Jose at noon because he doesn't even wake up before 11 anyway. He's struggling to get up at 10. I'm just kidding. Sorry, Jose. But it's true.
All right. Well, that's good. Yeah. Hopefully we'll do it a little earlier. It's nice to have a little bit of a longer show. We could get into some things here, get some of the comments going. Like
Corey, the show is over.
Like and subscribe to both YouTube channels, the Gold Standard YouTube page and also Grant Cohn's YouTube page. Corey says, can you imagine Apple aborting the iPhone after the first prototype? Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Trash.
Yeah, well, we'll see. It's never dull.
As Kyle Shanahan's in the like. I can tell you this is not going to work. I know. I've seen enough. 2.0's in the back being like, yeah, man, I've seen a lot of these situations. Not going to work. Don't bet on that
Larry David
iPhone.
Super Bowl commercial, right?
Absolutely. It's the same thing.
That's not a good idea. I can tell about these things.
Yep.
Have a good one, Grant.
You too. See you guys.